Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. And before I get on with this video, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, the double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai's peace continue to be bestowed unto your hopefully elect, because we're definitely going to need it. I'm your brother, Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando, and just got this video here by Full Spectrum Survival. Just going into some current events, with the narrative that we've heard before. We're dealing with plagues and pestilences. But again, and before I ramble, in Ecclesiastes 12:1, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. All right, before it's too late, because that tends to be a habit with individuals. They want to so-called get right with the Most High when it's too late. People tend to want to repent and seek the Lord after the fact. All right. It says, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Because you see, we're coming into a time where the warnings are going to stop going out. Mercy is seasonable, as the scriptures say, and we're vastly, dangerously approaching that time when the Heavenly Father is getting to a point to where what more needs to be said, and that's a very scary thing. When there's no more words that need to be said, and it's time for that action. And that's why we're hoping to just be found on the Lord's good graces. Yahweh Ba'ashim Shai showing us mercy, that's our best hope. So without further ado, just going to get into this video.
The United States government is getting concerned about this Ebola outbreak. Let's listen to what Donald Trump has to say about it right here.
Be concerned about Ebola. I'm concerned about everything, but certainly am. I think that it's been confined right now to Africa, but it's something that has had a breakout. I could ask Bobby or us to say a couple of words about it if you'd like. Want to do that?
As we watch this, the United States of America, our Department of State just issued a do not travel advisory to Rwanda and South Sudan. This is after fears began rippling through the U.S. government over growing and expanding Ebola outbreaks in the region. Now, there is one American who is already sick with this. Officials are warning that all Americans should not travel due to the risk of exposure.
And because this video was, 18 hours ago, roughly? And the narrative is already changing as far as Americans being affected. So, of course, Lord willing, it's a thing of never letting a good crisis go to waste. Because, again, apparently, last time I checked, hundreds of Americans have already been affected.
The strained medical infrastructure and the potential for a rapidly condition on the ground that if it comes to America, they will lock everything down. For something like Ebola, they will shut down every airplane, every port, every state will stop allowing interstate travel. This is one of those things that on your radar for preparedness, you will have to consider moving if you need to, getting out of the state quicker rather.
And America is not going to survive another lockdown, because just look at the damage that the first lockdowns did.
And later, maybe you have family members in an area that you are going to go to, or that you would hook up with in a long-duration emergency. This is one of those things that you would need to watch out for.
I think Heidi Overton is going to come up and give us a few words here. Dr. Overton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the CDC held a press briefing that provided a lot of the answers and information, but we have stood up a full interagency shorter flight time for Americans to receive treatment there in Germany. For all other Americans, we have issued travel warnings. We have instituted just today entry restrictions for non-U.S. citizens that have been in the region in the past 21 days. So in Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, and South Sudan. So very serious measures that have been taken. We are working to communicate very frequently with everyone. Your question was, should Americans be worried? Right now, there are no cases of Ebola in America. We want to keep it that way, and we are doing everything we can to support Americans in the region.
So, now, when I mentioned about Americans being infected already, it wasn't here in America last time I checked, which was just a few hours ago. Last time I looked up on it, it wasn't actually here in America. But again, according to what I've seen, Americans are already affected.
So Donald Trump says that he is concerned, but his concern over Ebola is not the only thing that we need to worry about here inside of our country. A regional source says that the United States of America expects the Al-Mandab Strait to close very soon. The Pentagon has significantly stepped up their surveillance over Yemen, and the MQ-9 drone that was just shot down recently shows you that we are in for some troubles ahead. Now, the closure of the Strait of Al-Mandab would deprive the global supply chain of an additional 8 million barrels of oil per day. Now, me and my brother went out.
So you see, man, because what are they calling, as far as this poly crisis, which mini crises, the fuel's about to run out. When everything comes together, I'm gonna grab this Jeremiah real quick, Jeremiah 1. You know, Cuba has already been in a blackout. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they just ran out of fuel. And it's being said, and again, this is just one of those boogeymans. This is one of Esau's narratives, because one of his weapons is the control of the media. So as far as the talks of America going into Cuba and taking over Cuba, you know, it's being said to defend itself, Cuba, and I forgot where they get him from, but allegedly it might have been the Persians, the so-called Iranians. I could be wrong. There's a lot of information to keep up with, but supposedly, in order to defend themselves, Cuba, they were talking about a preemptive strike, an attack on specifically Florida, South Florida, almost like a mini Pearl Harbor event, something along those lines. But again, we know the playbook, all right, of Esau by now. And like it's being talked about, you know, Kenya, Uganda, you know, certain of these nations, man, again, due to the already lack of resources, fuel shortages, and things of that nature, are protesting. And, you know, I always talk about the just how docile these Babylonians are. Because, I mean, it's not as bad in certain places, but nevertheless, those citizens are still tearing shit up. They're still protesting and rioting. And it's not as bad as it is over here in Babylon, because a lot of these protests that have been popping up is just due to what's going on over here in America. Inflation, gas, everything's going up. Over there in Bolivia, they're tearing shit up. This guy, what's his name? Mario. I forgot his name. You could just look him up. He's the I believe he's the head of the union. But they're trying to charge this guy with terrorism and inciting riots and things of that nature. Because they're tearing shit up over there, and they're blaming this guy, with these union strikes, and they're blaming that on this guy. So Bolivia, certain places like Bolivia, and we're in those times, and although we hear these things over and over and over, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, because just being in this flesh, it happens to us. We've been hearing about wars and rumors of wars. We've been hearing about things, earthquakes in diverse places. We've been hearing about these things, but these things are intensifying, they're ramping up. And one thing, we don't want to sleep on Yahweh Shemal Shai. We don't want to sleep on these prophecies. And again, I'm talking to myself first and foremost. Just watched a brother, forgot his name. Watched so many brothers, I forget names. Elder brother at that, just going into how we can't get too numb. So we can't sleep on Yahweh Shemal Shai. Because this is why I always say Yahweh Shemal Shai, he has all of us. He has everybody right where he wants us. And as far as these people who don't believe Yahweh Shemal Shai, he wants these people to be asleep on the Lord. He wants these people to be asleep. Because like the scriptures talk about, matter of fact, I'll get it because I don't want to butcher it too much. The Wisdom of Solomon. Because like the scriptures talk about, in weakness, that's when Yahweh Shemal Shai shows his strength. So when we least suspect it, that's when the Lord shows up. But on the contrary to these people, they're going to get caught like a thief in the night. So in Wisdom of Solomon 12:17, for when men will not believe that thou art of a full power, thou showest thy strength. And among them that know it, thou makest their boldness manifest. So, as I always say, Yahweh Shemal Shai, he has all of us right where he wants us. And as far as these people, he wants them to be asleep. And, we can't get caught in that low tide. I made this reference in the video a while ago. You get caught in that low tide. You sleeping on the beach, man, at low tide. You don't want to be asleep at that low tide, because next thing you know, you're floating in the middle of the ocean. Or better yet, you're in the spiritual realm. So, we don't want to get caught in that low tide, sleeping on the low tide. You see? So in Jeremiah 51, and it also talks about this in Ezekiel 7:26. Jeremiah 51:46, unless your heart faint, and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. So it's going to go from words on the pages, words in a book, to us actually living it out. So, any day now. Because with the combination of all these things, they're talking about oil shortages, AI, more and more is taking over jobs. And more and more people, everyone is being forced into a corner. Everyone, even the elect. But the difference is who we cry out to. That's the difference.
To get some oil for our vehicles and our tractor, and we saw just this happening. People were considering how much they can buy right now. Some of the shelves were already emptying out. You're starting to see supply constraints here at the American level. Over in China, China's DF-27 mobile hypersonic missile system is now openly rolling through their public roads. Western intelligence is scrambling. The missile is built to sink aircraft carriers and hammer distant naval bases from thousands of miles away. What this does is it turns offshore American fleet posture into a liability. Now, I've seen the videos of these launchers on the roads, some of them under tarps and some of them right out in the open. They have an 8,000-kilometer range with a hypersonic glide vehicle that hits Mach 5 on a maneuverable trajectory. They've already tested it to hit their target without fail at over 3,000 kilometers. It will hit that within 3 minutes, 3 to 12 minutes, depending on its location. What it's designed to do is shred aircraft carriers and our strike groups. And then it goes after bases, and then after island chains. Now we see the Indian and Pacific regions.
This shit can go after key infrastructures here in Babylon.
Under direct threat. Let me know in the comments if you think America can stop this type of threat here at the homeland. All right, we have the food inside of our country losing its nutritional value.
We now have to eat 8 oranges now to get the same vitamin A levels than our grandparents needed to have in one orange. What is going on?
Well, first of all, it's that our soil is depleted in fungi and microbes. Just like our gut is being destroyed, the soil has a microbiome. Those microbes bring minerals up to the plant, makes the vitamins for the plant, takes them up to the plant. When those microbes are not there,
Now, I'm a couple of days away here. I have a local company that is pulling the slips for me. We're getting a quarter-acre worth of sweet potato that we're going to put in the ground because sweet potato and field corn are two of the plantables that you don't have to have irrigation for here in my local environment. And as we get ready a larger garden, I want to at least get a quarter-acre in the ground. That's going to give me anywhere from 2,000 to 7,000 pounds of potatoes. Well, nobody needs 2,000 to 7,000 pounds of potatoes. So for its value, what I'm going to do is give as many away as I can to people in my group, local friends, neighbors, and then I'm going to set up my kids with the back of the truck potatoes, and they can go take it to a corner stop, they can take it to a crossroad, and they can sell them right there, bringing in some additional revenue, plus preserving what we have. So right now is the time that you and your family
Like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I'll say this, through the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai, Lord willing I be a man of the Lord, as well as the brothers in my camp and all the brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, man. Throughout Yahweh Shema Shai, because these guys, they don't even know that they're saving that for us. So, this is why Yahweh Shema Shai, as far as provisions, this is why we don't have nothing to worry about. This is why Yahweh Shema Shai, he did 99% of the work. All we have to do is meet him that 1%. And that 1% is just faith, plain faith. Because you best believe brothers are going to be running into these bunkers. All right. These warehouses, whatever the case may be, full of food and essentials, everything that brothers need. Yahweh Shema Shai, he's setting all this up behind closed doors. So Yahweh Shema Shai, he has his provision set.
Should be thinking about food production. We can't really hear this FBI information outlet, but they're saying that 3 adult males and 2 suspected teenage shooters entered an Islamic center and shot the place up. This is not the end, this is just the beginning. Kroger, the grocery chain. They just admitted that they're tied into the flock security cameras all across the country. There's no escaping the surveillance state that is being built to contain the American people. And when I say there's no escaping it, I mean there's no way around it. You're either so far outside of technology that you are yourself a target because you're an invisible data point, or you manage it to the best of your ability. So I highly suggest that you and your...
And if you don't know about those flock cameras, man, look into them. Esau is getting everyone accumulated onto this system, which is all going to go back to a database, going back to that root word for the Karax, which is the root word for charagma. You know, that root word for Karax goes back to that grapho or that database. As the Most High, Esau, he's trying to be everywhere at the same time. He's trying to know your thoughts, know our thoughts. You know, he's sinister with it, with his godlike complex.
When your family do that. Subprime auto loan delinquencies have reached a 32-year high. This is as American citizens are struggling with record high payments. Look at shrinkflation happening.
Isn't real, because look at this exercise in my hand. I'm a 6'6" man. This is a massive bag of what is supposed to be luxurious orange chicken from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's, count your days. I'm going to go there and manually expand your parking lot.
So there you have a message of shrinkflation happening. Look at this flooding. Now, a lot of people in China are saying that because of the deal that the United States just made with China, that hell is raining down on the country. They're blaming the floods. They're blaming the wildfires. They're saying that this is because Trump came in there. Now, I'm not so much of a conspirator that I believe that we instituted this, but I'm not so naive that I believe we couldn't. Look at these floods ripping through these streets of China. They say that the river here rose up 12 meters. The U.S. just banned all foreigners who have been to the Congo, Uganda, or South Sudan in the past 21-day period.
And of course, that could have been, because, you know, pay attention to these meetings. After these meetings, some shit always happens after these meetings. Things always happen after these meetings. When these so-called leaders, when they get together, things always happen.
Now, we opened this broadcast with Donald Trump saying that he's concerned about Ebola, because if it reaches America, they're going to have to institute complete lockdown and control measures that will tank our economy. You'll see people rioting in the streets. Food production will be a problem. We have to watch this. And we have to be prepared for what they will do if it comes here, whether they've tainted it or not. Now, Ebola is one of those things that you bleed out your eyes and into your organs. It's definitely not a pretty picture.
Kentucky has a choice in this race. You can send a warrior, reinforcements for the president in our shared fight against the radical left, or you can send an obstructionist. In my mind, it's an easy choice. Kentucky.
Now that's the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, going after Thomas Massey, saying that you can either send in a warrior that will back up the Make America Great Again ideology and mentality, or you can send what he calls an obstructionist that will get in the way of that. So we see a lot of political turmoil here inside of our nation. Now this is a flight video. This is over China. And again, this is why people in that country are saying this is because Donald Trump came there and China made deals with America. I've got it muted for the music, but you can just see, this looks artificial. It doesn't even look real, but this is in fact right outside of a cockpit. This is reportedly over Beijing, China, reported all across our country on mainstream outlets. So definitely something worth keeping an eye on as we see very strange weather events happen across the world.
Hey, you know, we're living in unprecedented times. Like I said, you know, we can't sleep on prophecy, we can't sleep on the Lord. The Spirit is moving, and Lord willing is moving on our behalf. So 2 Ezra 16 and 38, verse 37, behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, within 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains, when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. So, you know, pretty much, man, the shots have been fired. It's just a matter of them reaching their target, reaching their destination. As it says in verse 39, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. So people think that the 2020, 21, 22, you know, the worst years are behind us. And Yahweh Shema Shah is rubbing his hands, he hasn't gotten started yet, or he's just getting started. So we haven't seen anything yet. Like I said, Bolivia, Uganda, Kenya, and a lot of other places, due to this fuel shortages and this whole so-called Middle Eastern conflict, the price of everything that's going on over here in America. You best believe a lot of these countries they're tearing shit up, and of course it's just a matter of time before it comes here full blown. I was going to grab this in Jeremiah. So life as we know it is about to change. All right. People are about to get extremely desperate. Ezekiel 14, due to the cold, common collectiveness of the elect men, these people, especially women, they're going to be clinging on to a man of Yahweh Shema Shai, because we have the answers and we know what's going on. So Yahweh Shema Shai, he already has a certain spirit on his elect. So people are going to flock to that. The spirit of Isaiah 4:1 is out there. And this thing is getting ready to turn up. So in Jeremiah 1 and 13, and the word of the Lord came unto me the second time, saying, What seest thou? And I said, I see a seething pot, and the face thereof is toward the north, talking about here, all right. Then the Lord said unto me, Out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. So all hell's getting ready to break loose. Nevertheless, so Lord willing, this was edifying. All praises to you, Yahweh Shema Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully elect.